In 1997, in the state of West Virginia in United States, a very unusual case took place. Even today, people around the world still talk about it because it's become the first murder case that was said to have been solved by someone who was no longer alive. How can that make sense? How it's possible for a dead person to help the solved case? You will find out. What if I told you that the murder victim herself spoke and revealed who killed her? Did she come back to life? Of course not. A dead person can't return to life. So how did it happen? I will tell you the complete story. By the time you reach the end of the story, your mind will be amazed. On January 23, 1897, as the sun was setting, a man named Erasmus Shue was working in his small shop. He was getting ready to close because it was becoming late when his last customer of the day arrived and asked him to do some work. Erasmus made horseshoes. These are metal shoes attached to the bottom of the horse's feet. As he was preparing to close the shop, he began working for the customer. The job was taking longer than expected, and he realized he would be late getting home to his wife. There was an 11-year-old boy who sometimes helped him. Erasmus told the boy, "Go straight to my neighborhood and check on my wife. Tell her that I will be late coming home." He was worried because his wife was pregnant. The boy agreed and left. Erasmus' wife was named Zona Shue. Zona and Erasmus had met only a few months earlier. Soon after they met, Zona became pregnant because they had fallen deeply in love. Erasmus came to the small village where Zona lived. Zona was a young woman who had spent her whole life in her hometown and rarely went anywhere else. Erasmus arrived in the village. They noticed each other immediately. They slowly got to know one another and spent a lot of time talking. Eventually, they got married. Zona was 23 years old, while Erasmus was 35 years old. He was much older than her. Zona's mother, Mary Jane, strongly disliked Erasmus. The reason was simple. She felt he was too old for her daughter. She often thought, why would my daughter marry a man so much older than her when she could find someone younger? But Zona was very stubborn. Once she made a decision, she rarely changed her mind. She liked Erasmus very much. Erasmus was a tall man with blue eyes and soft hair. He was also attracted to Zona's beauty and her dark hair. They fell deeply in love, and it's become impossible to separate them. In the end, they got married. After the marriage, they kept Zona's pregnancy secret from everyone. The reason was that when she became pregnant, a doctor had been monitoring her condition and her health. As the time passed, Zona's health problems started getting worse. Because of this, they decided not to tell anyone about her pregnancy until her condition becoming normal again. A doctor was quietly monitoring her health and checking her vital signs regularly. Now let's return to January 23, 1897. After Erasmus sent the 11-year-old boy to check on his wife, when the boy went to their house. When he arrived home, he knocked on the front door, but nobody answered. The boy immediately felt that something was wrong. Usually, Zona would open the door very quickly. She was known as cheerful and friendly woman who had often talked and spent time with her neighbor. He knocked several more times, but there was still no answer. Feeling worried, he decided to try opening the door himself. To his surprise, the door was already unlocked. The sun was beginning to set, and not a single light was on inside the house. The boy slowly stepped into the dark home. As he walked through the house and approaching the staircase, he suddenly saw Zona lying on the floor. He moved closer and called her name, "Zona, Zona," but she did not respond. When he looked carefully, he noticed that one of her hands was resting on her stomach. She was completely motionless. She was not breathing. She looked cold and lifeless. The boy was terrified. He immediately ran out of the house and rushed to his mother's house. Breathlessly, he told her everything he had seen. His mother was shocked. She quickly said, "Run and tell Erasmus what happened to his wife. I will go get the doctor." But there is one problem. The doctor lived about an hour away, so it would take time to bring you home to his house. It would take time to bring him to the house. The boy's mother hurried to find the doctor, while the boy ran to Erasmus' shop to deliver the terrible news. The boy was believed that Zona was dead, passed away, because she was not breathing at all. When Erasmus heard the news, he immediately rushed home. Meanwhile, the boy's mother found the doctor and brought him back with her. When they finally arrived at the house, they saw many neighbors gathering outside. Everyone was talking nervously and trying to understand what had happened. The crowd moved aside to let the doctor enter. When they went inside, they found Erasmus upstairs. He was holding his wife's body in his arm. He had her face pressed against his chest and was crying uncontrollable. The doctor could see that Erasmus was completely devastated. His wife had just died, and he was overwhelmed with grief. The doctor wanted to examine his body to determine the cause of the death. He gently placed a hand on Erasmus' shoulder and said, "I want to examine her. I know you are suffering, but please let me take a look." However, Erasmus was so overwhelmed by the sadness that he barely seemed to hear the doctor. He continued holding Zona close to his chest and cried intensely. The doctor decided to give him some time because he understood how heartbroken he was. After waiting a while, the doctor finally insisted a little more firmly, "Please let me examine her." They finally laid Zona's body down so the doctor could examine her properly. Even then, Erasmus could not let go of his wife. He could not believe that she was really dead. He stood beside her, staring at her face, unable to accept what had happened. The doctor continued his examination while Erasmus remained nearby. After examining her, the doctor concluded that the most likely causes of death was related to her pregnancy. At that moment, everyone learned that Zona had been pregnant. Even though she had kept it secret, the following day preparations were made for her funeral. She was buried in the small cemetery belonging to the village. When family members, friends, and neighbors gathered for the funeral, Erasmus' grief was impossible to ignore. He cried so much that everyone present was affected by it. Before saying his final goodbye, he took out a small piece of cloth that Zona loved very much. He carefully wrapped it around her neck and said that should be buried with it, because it had been one of her favorite possessions. After that, they placed her body in a coffin. Erasmus closed the coffin, and Zona was buried. Everyone offered their condolences to Erasmus. He accepted them politely, although he and his family were clearly heartbroken. However, there was something that surprised everyone. Zona's mother, Mary Jenny, did not seem sad in any way people expected. She showed very little crying and very little grief. Instead, she seemed angry. Most of her anger appeared to be directed toward Erasmus. She disliked the way he was crying and mourning. In her mind, she seemed to think, "My daughter is the one who died, not you." People tried to comfort Mary Jenny as well, since she had lost her younger daughter, but she paid little attention to them. She eventually walked away from the gathering. Everyone noticed her behavior and found it strange. In the days after funeral, Mary Jane began to change. She was no longer the same person. She stopped to talk to people. Whenever she came outside, she looked frightening and distracted. She would mutter things that nobody could understand, while nervously looking around. as if she were searching for something. Then she would quickly return to her house. The neighbors become increasingly concerned and confused by her behavior. A light could be seen coming from her room. In those days, no electricity in many homes, so the light comes from candles. Night after night, candles burning in her home, showing that she was stayed awake for long hours. People were also puzzled by the behavior of Sonny's father, Mary Jane's husband. When the neighbor asked questions, he gave no answers. They eventually discovered that he had stopped sleeping inside the family's home. Instead, he slept in a small storage building located in the garden behind the house. He never explained why he chose to sleep there. As a result, the villagers become even more curious. This strange situation continued day after day until February 1 arrived. On that day, the frightening woman who had stopped talking people was completely different. For days, whenever Mary Jane left her house, she would avoid speaking to anyone. She would nervously looking around, quickly grab whatever she needed, and rush it back home. But on this particular day, she came outside calmly. She looked confident. She was no longer nervously and looking from side to side, nor was she muttering to herself. The neighbors were surprised. They wondered, has she finally recovered from the shock of losing her daughter? But they had no idea what she had been doing during these days. That morning, Mary Jane went directly to a lawyer's office. The lawyer already knew about her situation and welcomed her inside. He had many questions in his own mind because he had noticed how strangely she had been acting. The two went into his office and talked for nearly 2 hours. At first, the lawyer did not take her words seriously. He thought, this is a woman whose young daughter has just died. Perhaps the grief has affected her mind. So he listened politely but remained skeptical. However, as the conversation continued, the lawyer became increasingly shocked. By the end of the meeting, he was stunned. He could hardly believe what Mary Jane was telling him. When he carefully considered everything she said, he realized that some of the details seemed to make sense. After their meeting ended, the lawyer immediately wanted to see the doctor who had been treating Zona. He repeated everything Mary Jane had told him. At first, the doctor reacted exactly like the lawyer had. He assumed that grief may be affecting Mary Jane's judgment, but when the lawyer finished explaining all detail, the doctor paused and said, "What are you telling me? It may actually be possible." The next day, February 2, the doctor and the lawyer made decision. They decided that Sonny's body should be exhumed from the grave and examined again. But what had Mary Jane told them that was so shocking? Why did her story convince both the lawyer and the doctor to reopen the case? That day, the workers dug up Sonny's grave and brought her body from another examination. As soon as the coffin was opened and the body was placed on the examination table, the doctor and the lawyer saw something that immediately shocked them. Within the first 3 seconds, they noticed the evidence that matched what Mary Jane had described. As a result, the authorities acted quickly. They arrested Zona Shue, Sonny's husband, and placed him in a jail. At this point, you may be wondering what exactly happened. To understand, we must go back to Mary Jane's meeting with the lawyer. Mary Jane told him, "On the day of my daughter's funeral, I kept watching Erasmus. I was already angry with him, but something felt wrong. I had a strong feeling that he had done something to my daughter." She said that she suspected Erasmus had murdered Zona. However, she had no proof. Then she told the lawyer something extraordinary. She said, "The only way I could ever know the truth was if my dead daughter told me herself. According to historical accounts, there are two versions of what happened the next day described. Both versions agreed on one thing. Mary Jane claimed her deceased daughter, Zona, somehow appeared to her and revealed the truth about her death. Now, I will tell you the most surprising part of the story. Mary Jane said that after she became convinced something was wrong, she returned home and began praying every night. She was Christian, so she prayed according to her faith. However, she was not praying for strength or comfort to help her cope with the loss of her daughter. Instead, she prayed for one thing: help me find out what happened to my daughter. That was the focus of her prayers. According to her account, the reason she often appeared distracted, looked around nervously, and spoke quietly to herself was because she was constantly praying and hoping for answer. She desperately wanted to know the truth about her daughter's death. Mary Jane later claimed that during this period, she may somehow see her daughter's spirit and learn what had happened. One day, while she was praying alone in her home, she noticed a strange light. The light appeared only a few seconds before disappearing. At first, she was unsure what she had seen. She thought that was not ordinary light. I should continue praying. So she continued. A few days later, she claimed then she saw it the third time. Each time it appeared briefly and then vanished. Finally, one night while she was praying, the light appeared again. This time, according to Mary Jane, something emerged from the light. She claimed it was her daughter Zona. Mary Jane said that the figure looked like Zona but also looked differently. She appeared pale, wearing dark clothing, and her appearance was unlikely the healthy young woman she had known in her life. Mary Jane said she was terrified. She almost stepped back in fear, but she gathered enough courage to ask the question. She desperately wanted this answer. How did you die? According to her story, the figure then began explaining what had happened. Mary Jane claimed that she could see what looked like dirt around her son's mouth and that she had heard a deep, heavy voice speaking. The figure allegedly told her the person who killed me was Zona Shue. Mary Jane said she was shocked and frightened. She then asked, "How did he kill you?" According to her account, the figure suddenly made a terrifying movement. Mary Jane demonstrated the injury by turning its head unnaturally, showing that the neck had been broken. She said the movement frightened her so much that she could barely speak. Before disappearing, the figure allegedly told her that this was how she had been killed. Mary Jane broke down in tears after the experience. When she later spoke to the lawyer, she explained that the most important thing investigators needed to do was carefully examine Zona's neck. She believed that markers or injuries on the neck would prove that Erasmus had attacked her. My dear viewer, that in the first version of the story according to historical context, there is also another version recorded in history. According to that version, Mary Jane did not actually see her daughter's spirit while awake instead. Instead, she had dream. The dream was very similar to a story I just told you, whether it was a dream or a version depending on which account you read. Many people find it difficult to believe that a spirit could appear and speak to someone. Different people have different beliefs about what happened. What is historically documented is that Mary Jane reported receiving information that made her suspect her daughter's neck should be examined. When the lawyer and the doctors decided to investigate further, they exhumed Zona's body and conducted another examination. To their surprise, they found injuries that had not been properly recognized before. They discovered signs of trauma on her neck, including evidence that her neck had been broken. The finding shocked them. As a result, Erasmus Shue was immediately arrested. Soon afterward, a trial began. During the court proceedings, Mary Jane told her story about how she came to suspect that her daughter had been murdered. Many people were surprised by her testimony. More importantly, the physical evidence found on Sonny's body matched the concern she had raised. The examination showed that the injuries to Sonny's neck was real. Because of the evidence, Erasmus remained under arrest and faced trial. The case became famous because many people describe it the first murder case in which information allegedly provided by ghosts. The ghosts helped lead investigators to truth. Historically, however, it was the medical evidence discovered during the second examination, not the ghost story itself, that was used in the court. During the trial, investigators learned more about Erasmus' past. They discovered that he had previously been married more than once. His first marriage ended after reports of abuse and violence. His second wife had died in accident. Erasmus claimed that a large rock had fallen on the stuck her while they were working together. Whether that explanation was completely true has remained a matter of debate. As Zona, the investigators conclude that she had been killed by strangulation and a broken neck. Erasmus was found guilty of murdering his wife. He was sentenced to life in prison. About 3 years later, he died while serving his sentence. Reports state that he had experienced serious physical and mental health problems before his death. Many people come to believe that Erasmus had been an abusive husband who hid his true nature from others. To the public, he often appeared friendly, respectable, but behind closed doors, the situation was very different. And that is how the case was finally solved. The story remains famous to this day because of the unusual role that Mary Jane claims played in reopening the investigation. The case later becoming known as Greenbrier Ghost Case, one of the most famous mysteries in American history. In conclusion, personally, many people find this case surprising because of the strange circumstances surrounding the investigation and how the truth eventually came to the light. Whether Mary Jane information come from dream, a vision, intuition, or something else is something people still debate today. What is certain is that re-examination of Sonny's body uncovered evidence of the murder and led to the confirmation Erasmus Shue. Thank you for following this story to the end. Until the next time, take care and goodbye.